The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
Did you hear that?
Welcome to Salmon Says. So we're going to talk about a special promotion going on in a town in Michigan, and let's read about that. If you are looking to get married, yesterday or February 29th, whatever day that is to you, would have been the day to do it for free. Yes, weddings can be very expensive, so why not get married for free? And here's your chance. If you want to go to Michigan and do it, you can do it. All right? The township of Hell, Michigan. Yes, H-E double hockey sticks. Population 70. I thought there'd be a lot more people there than that. Is offering a devilishly good opportunity. They had 29 couples, or they're offered free nuptials for 29 couples to take place at 2:29 p.m. It says, when you get married in hell, there's nowhere in your marriage to go but up, said Reverend Yvonne Williams, who officiated the mass not tying. Pretty crazy. Interested couples signed up by texting the pastor. Non-Michigan couples needed to get a license to get married in Hell, Michigan. So, man, how was the wedding? Oh, it was hell. It was in hell. Really? Yeah, it was like I was in Hell, Michigan. Okay, so more on that. You want to talk more about that? Okay, let's go to Wikipedia. Hell is an unincorporated community in Livingston County in the U.S. state of Michigan. As an unincorporated community, Hell has no defined boundaries or population statistics of its own. That's eerie. You know, hey, you go to Hell, Michigan. Located in the Putnam Township, the community is centered along Patterson Lake Road, about 15 miles northwest of Ann Arbor, and 3 miles of Pickney. The community served as the Pickney Post Office with a zip code of 48169. Now, it's 60 miles west of Detroit, if that helps you out. Hell developed around a small mill, grist mill, distillery, and tavern. Sounds about right. All 4 were operated by George Reeves, who moved in the area in the 1830s from the Catskill Mountains in New York. Now, nobody knows how it got its name. That's what you're probably thinking. There are 2 theories of the origin of Hell's name. The first is a pair of German travelers stepped out of a stagecoach one Sunday afternoon in the 1830s, and so one said the other, "So shone Hell," translated as "so beautifully bright." Their comments were overheard by some locals, and the name stuck. Soon after Michigan gained statehood, George Reeves was asked what he thought of the town he helped settle should be called, and he replied, "I don't care. You can name it Hell for all I care." So, who knows how it got named, but it is Hell, Michigan. So, man, you know, you're traveling through Detroit, and you're like, oh, man, this is like going through hell, you know. And it doesn't get hot there because it's Michigan, you know, and so imagine it gets cold. When hell freezes over, and it could actually possibly happen. That could really happen. It could be hotter than you know what. It could freeze over. All right, so I feel bad for the people that live there. You imagine getting post mail from somebody, and you're like, wait a minute, where did this come from? It's from Hell, Michigan. I ain't opening this. This is Salmon Says Podcast.
We'll continue our adventure in just a moment.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Smith Search Company. If we can't find it, it must be lost.
Hi, this is Bob Scratchit with Stash for Gold. Have you ever had any of that unwanted jewelry lying around the house, or gold teeth, or anything else you might want to turn in for stash? Exactly. Let's talk to one of our satisfied clients.
Hello, so I got rid of my gold with Stash for Gold. My neck problems, they're over. I have no more neck problems, so come.
Stash for Gold can turn any of that unwanted jewelry lying around into money for you. Think about it. You can buy Christmas gifts just for jewelry you don't even wear anymore. Here's our satisfied client once again.
That's right, so come. I pity the fool that doesn't use Stash for Gold. So cut out your jibber jabber and give him a call today.
See how happy our client is? Turn in your unwanted gold jewelry today. 1-800-RIPOFFS. Call us now.
Am I get paid for this, sucker?
Salmon Says.
So we were talking about a town called Hell, Michigan, population 70. It's real, look it up. 60 miles west of Detroit. And it's very, very crazy. Nobody knows how it got its name. There's a sign as you pull in. It says the official U.S. Weather Bureau, Hell, Michigan. Okay? Very funny. Yeah. And so, here's the thing. I looked this up, and I have sometimes. So if you take the take Highway D32 in Michigan, it's literally the highway to hell. If you say you've been down D32 and passed through Hell, Michigan, you have been on the highway to hell. Coming back on Salmon Says. Oh, man. I'm going to get a letter. We will talk about some weird history. Hey, we're going to talk about the flatulence, one of my favorite subjects in the world, right? Who needs to learn something? Oh, you're going to learn. You're going to learn about the fartisty and what Mozart and flatulence have in common. This is Salmon Says Podcast.
We'll continue our adventure in just a moment.
Have you ever desired to learn a new language? We here at Salmon Says offer classes in Pig Latin. Udwe, uye, aikle, ute, ernle, epe, atle? Yes, Salmon Says. 250 easy classes. And before you know it, you'll be speaking Pig Latin to all your friends. Uye, ise, hise, usa, ase, ise, hise, use, wa. What? Sorry, that was only after the first lesson. Call 800-717-6337 or 800-RIPOFFs.
Let's open the mind of one of the most curious and creative minds on the planet. Okay, well, he told me to say that. No, really, he's looking at me right now. Seriously, it's Salmon Says.
So welcome back to the Salmon Says Podcast. It's been an odd show for you today, and I hope you're hanging in there with me and haven't been laughing too hard. If you have, that's fine. All right, if your sides are hurting, that's a good thing. That means I'm doing my job. So we're done talking about Hell, Michigan, which is because it's creepy and it's, not cool. So let's talk about some other things that are odd and very funny as well. I have a book called Odd or Weird History, and out of that book, I got this stuff. Now, you're probably going to think, wait a minute, what is this guy talking about? Well, here we go. The fartisty. This was a job. Joseph Pujol, who lived 1857 to 1945, could control the pitch and timbre of his farts to create beautiful medleys and imitate people and animals. Known as La Pantomime, the fartisty, a.k.a. elastic, well, it sounds like a planet. Pujol was one of the most popular acts in Paris. Here's a review of one of his shows at the Moulin Rouge. He took the stage in costume of red coat, red silk collar, and black satin breeches. That's what it says, breeches. He began by explaining each impersonation that was to follow. This is a little girl. This is a bride on her wedding night. This is a dressmaker tearing a calico. This is a cannon. The audience members were first astounded. Then there would be an uncontrollable laughing, kind of like what I did when I first read this, followed by more until the whole audience was wriggling in their seats, convulsed. The fartisty. Imagine seeing that on a billboard sign, a big marquee. Tonight only, the fartisty. Bring your nose plugs, 2 shows. Yeah, there's a bathroom joke in there somewhere. Coming back on Salmon Says, we will talk about Mozart and flatulence. What do they have to do with each other? Oh, you're going to love this. It is Salmon Says.
This portion of the show sponsored by unleaded gas.
The finest ingredients are right in the mix.
Salmon Says.
Isn't that easy? And quick, too.
So Mozart, very, important composer. And apparently the dude thought that farts were just hilarious. To cut the cheese in a particularly tuneful way. Turned out that Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who lived 1756 to 1791, I think it was, would have been very proud of that honor. Why? Because he was a fan of flatulence. The Austrian composer appreciated farts so much that he wrote poems about the best ones he encountered. I have one of those poems now. You ready for it? Let me clear my throat. Okay, here's that poem. Quiet like a morning's dew, I yawn, and a loud noise comes from near. At first I fear it. I could be a bear. Then I realize it was air from back there. For as I felt it, I was the one who dealt it. Wow, he does such good poetry. Okay, I can't prove that Mozart wrote that, but he thought farts were hilarious. This is Salmon Says Podcast.
Salmon Says.
Welcome back to the Salmon Says Podcast. if you're still listening, oh, you're my new best friend. It's been an odd, very, very funny, odd show, to say the least, okay? We've talked about the fartisty. We've talked about Mozart and flatulence. This one isn't so odd. We talked about the getting married in hell. And there's some jokes, other jokes that go along with that I didn't even use. So let's talk about this. Okay, here we go. A police chief loses his job at a town meeting and then walks home. Well, let's say he could get a ticket for being indisposed, kind of, sort of. When the leaders of a small town of New Hampshire suddenly terminated his job, the police chief took his uniform off, handed over his car keys, headed out the snowy walk, home in boots, his hat, and his lucky draws. Yes, he's in his underwear. Richard Lee said he was surprised by the vote at the Crydon's regular town meeting Tuesday night. Out of nowhere, the select board made a motion to disband the police department. He said, I was told at that point that I had to turn in my cruiser keys and supply them with badges, uniform, and other equipment immediately. Lee stood up, started taking off his clothes. You said immediately, he told the board. This is immediately. That's what they said. Don't say immediately if you don't mean it, right? I told them, see ya, and went out the door in my underwear. Lee says someone called his wife, who caught up with him and drove him the rest of the way home. That would be embarrassing. She draws by and she's like, Richard, get in the car. I can't believe you're doing this. What if my friends see you? Russell Edwards, the board chairman, confirmed the vote on CNN affiliate WPTZ. The board's vote to dissolve the Crydon Police Department was a, quote, well-thought-out decision, and we have many issues to decide on what we have to do. So this is as much of a commitment as we're going to give. This is as much of a comment as we're going to give at this point. So there you go. Cop says, oh, yeah? All right, I'm done. I'm glad that those weren't standard issue underwear either. That's what I'm glad about, and the boots. Apparently those were his boots. And I'm glad that he had to turn in his badge, because otherwise he had nothing to stick it to. Yeah, that's... Yikes. It's Salmon Says. Gonna do a people that make you go duh right now. I think you guys will appreciate this one. Okay, here we go. I love this one. Well, she was visiting Philadelphia. Vicky, I'm just gonna give her first name, of Washington, D.C., went into labor 6 weeks early. Now, Vicky called her personal doctor in Washington. He told her to get to the nearest hospital in Philadelphia. Then he leaped into a car, drove 130 miles to Vicky's hospital. By the time the doctor arrived, Vicky already had been taken into the delivery room. Although her doctor didn't have privileges at the hospital, he managed to talk his way into the delivery room. Vicky was happy to see him. The attending doctor, however, was not. Don't get ahead of me on this. One word led to another concerning who was in charge of the birth, and soon the two doctors were shoving each other. Meanwhile, Vicky's laying over there. The battle of astonishment, she started giving birth. Between her pain, she blurted out, hey, the baby's coming. Could one of you please stop shoving a minute and catch it? That's awesome. That is people that make you go duh. This has been Salmon Says. Appreciate you guys tuning in on the weird episode today. Just some odd stuff I've been holding back to say for you. So remember, if you're getting married, don't get married in Hell, Michigan. If you're listening to Mozart, you're never going to listen to Mozart again. The same. If you're delivering a baby in an out-of-state, you can let your doctor know, but tell him not to come. And lastly, if you're a police officer and you get fired on the job, well, maybe change your clothes first, then bring the uniform back. Words of wise to you. Salmon Says Podcast. Get a hold of me at Josh Salmon's Voice, JoshSalmonsvoice @gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Produced by me. That would be Salmon. This is Salmon Says 2020. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you back here next week.